Welcome back to The Gassing Station, the podcast that goes sifting through the Pistonheads forums like I have been sifting through all sorts of new and exciting cars at the recent Goodwood Media Drive Day. Co-host Sam Sheehan, you weren't there because you were busy driving a car that we're actually going to talk about in a bit, which is the Hyundai Ioniq 6.
Hyundai.
Yeah. Do you know what? When we were planning this episode this morning, I was actively trying to say Hyundai to not sound like a posh boy, and I've fallen at the first hurdle.
We were saying Hyundai for a very long time. I know. The entire time of the brand being here, apart from the last few years.
It's only recently where they've been going, guys, you've been saying the name wrong the whole time.
Someone's going to say I'm saying it wrong, aren't they? But close enough.
I would like it if Mazda then turned around and said, actually, can you call us Matsuda?
Yeah.
As they say it. But anyway, I digress. I was at this media day at Goodwood, and basically what they do is you get all sorts of manufacturers come along. They invite journalists like myself and you, and they also get influencers to come along. So I tried out the new Honda Prelude.
Yes. Oh, I've been wanting to drive that for ages.
Absolutely. I'm just doing.
Does it look as good in the metal?
I've had a few people say, "Oh, it doesn't look as good in person as it does in pictures," and for me, it just looked exactly the same.
Which is great, right?
Smart.
Okay.
I can't say I'm bowled over by it because I think there's the design language that Honda has at the moment is incredibly similar to what Toyota has.
Yeah.
Which is, dare I say, a little similar to what Ferrari's doing as well, with its kind of, very thin,
Prius,
kind of like Prius-y.
Amalfi, Prelude, yeah.
It's all quite similar, and, Toyota's Le Mans car even looks like it now.
Yeah.
So I don't know who did it first. I think maybe Toyota did it first.
Yeah.
But it feels a bit odd in that sense of where it's quite a generic looking thing. And that's something you could never say about Japanese cars as looking generic. But no, I'll talk about it on a later podcast because I'm still writing up my piece on it. And I think by the time that goes up, it's probably going to be in a couple of weeks' time. But long and short of it is it's not a sports car in the conventional sense. It's very Honda. It feels almost like the modern version of an Insight.
Yeah.
Of where you get in it and it's like, this is massively over-engineered and doesn't feel... I don't know who it appeals to, but I like it. It's almost tailor-made for a journalist who is looking for something slightly different to talk about. But that's, from a journalist perspective, from an actual buyer's perspective, I'm not sure. But we'll talk about that on a later pod. What I did do, though, and strangely wanted to talk about because I didn't drive the thing, but I passengered in the new Lanzante 9559.
So jealous.
Well,
wow.
It was really cool, but it was a very early development prototype.
Okay.
So for those of you who don't know, Lanzante, the company that ran the McLaren F1 that won Le Mans in 1995, they're also the company that converted the first McLaren F1 GTR for road use. They've since converted P1 GTRs, Senna GTRs for road use. They created the long-tail P1 GT. They created the Porsche 911s with the tag F1 engines in.
I actually was the first. We broke the story on Pistonheads.
Really?
Yeah, and I went there that when it was still an unfinished car. So it was. I think the story was news and the news announcement that they were doing it had been done, but we were the first to cover it. You can still find the article. When was it? It was pre-pandemic.
It was pre-pandemic. I think so. Yeah.
We were the first to get exclusive access to it, not to drive it because it was unfinished, but to photograph it in detail, poke around it, sit in it, look at the engine. It's so cool.
It is ridiculously cool. But whenever I think of that car, I think how massive those engines must have been. And
unreliable because they weren't designed to run more than 10 seconds. The qualifying spec engine was 2 laps.
Yeah, but I'd say especially in the 80s when it's I was looking at something the other day about the old V8 F1 cars and they had 10 engines for a season.
Yeah.
And that was considered not many back then. It was like, how are we going to make these 10 engines survive? Because it used to be a case of a new engine every lap.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's about as extreme as their projects had been so far. But this 9559 is, in their words, their first ground up supercar.
Yeah.
Now, there's I say in their words because it requires a 750S donor car to be produced. So you have to provide a 750S donor car, and then they'll do all the work. But the work is so extensive that they say it's basically re-engineered from the ground up. So not only they're trying to make it up to 160 kilograms lighter than a 750S. No one's driven a 750S and thought it's a bit of a heifer lump.
Bit heavy.
Yeah, so 160 kilos lighter with carbon fiber bodywork, forged aluminium wheels, and all sorts of other bits. But the big thing is that it's now a 3-seater layout.
Yeah.
So if you look inside, it's an F1 style cockpit. And so that's what they had on this development mule, is that it looked mostly like a 750S wrapped in camo. But the big change so far was this 3-seater layout. And so they said, "Oh, do you want to come and give it a whirl in the passenger seat?" So I was like, "Yeah." It's always hard to kind of glean much information from a passenger seat, but it's such a obscure layout that I was like, "You've got to try it." And the driver that was taking us around was a guy called Edward Sandstrom, who's I'm sorry, Edward, I didn't really know who you were before getting in. And then I'd had a chat with him, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, I've driven some GTs, I've driven some touring cars." Go back and Wikipedia him, and it's like, "Oh, you won the Nürburgring 24 Hours in 2015.
He's just the biggest legend ever.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, won loads of Swedish touring car. And the Swedish touring cars is a proper... It is like the BTCC, but I think the cars are even better.
Yeah, more extreme.
So he took us around, and the fascinating thing is, when you get in... Have you been in a McLaren F1 before, Sam?
No, I've only looked at one. I don't even think I've touched one. I think I've seen one from the other side of a rope.
I think that's that's about as close as I've got to one.
Yeah.
Never sat in one. And so when you sit in on the passenger side, basically what you have is you've got a centre seat that's a carbon bucket.
Yeah.
Very nice. And then the 2 passenger seats are essentially, like in an F1, you're just sitting in the tub.
Yeah.
It's
with a bit of fabric and cushioning, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's about it. So you sit in, and the immediate feeling is you can't see you feel like you're sitting quite low to begin with, and second of all is you're really far away from the dashboard. So you've got loads of leg room, but it's a really odd position because it's like getting in the back of a hatchback and someone's removed the 2 front seats.
Yeah.
So you don't have that seat in front of you obscuring your vision, but the dash is so far away that initially you feel a bit disconnected.
Yeah, yeah.
And you feel very much a passenger. But then when you're out driving or you're being driven out on the track, you feel like you're almost in like one of those old 90s over-the-shoulder camera shots that you see in GT racing. Yeah.
Which are epic, by the way, because the cameras were like this big as well. So they had to mount them in. God knows how they attached them to the car.
Yeah, and the amount of weight they must have added.
Yeah. But I know exactly what you mean.
So you get... But what that means is you get this really fascinating view of the driver.
Yeah.
And when you've got someone of Edward Sandstrom's ability driving you at full chat around Goodwood, I could barely remember what was actually going on outside of the car because I was just watching his steering inputs, watching his modulating the throttle and brake.
Yeah.
And it felt like I was watching an onboard lap of an old McLaren F1 GTR at Le Mans or something. Yeah. And also, even though you're sat slightly behind the driver, you do have a pretty good idea of how the car's pivoting around you. Of
course, yeah.
And then coupled with that of watching the driver really engaged, it genuinely feels like a much more involving experience than just sitting in the passenger seat of a supercar going around a lap. So
I guess if you're bolted to the chassis, in effect, as well, you are. Exactly. There's no cushioning to soak up any feeling. You 100%. Feel everything. That sounds mega. Was this pre-lunch or after lunch?
It was after lunch.
Oh,
but it was an hour after lunch, and it was quite a light lunch, luckily. Otherwise, it probably would have been Chunder City.
Yeah, and a liquid lunch if you're of a journalist of old days. I remember hearing stories of journalists back in the 80s sort of passengering in cars after a liquid lunch because it was 1985. Yeah. And then immediately thrown up.
I don't know why journalists back then, all they would literally live off was just cigarettes and alcohol.
Yeah.
But no, so I had something a bit more substantial. Luckily, didn't Chunder.
He didn't see it again.
But it was fascinating. It was so interesting to experience. I've passengered in many cars. Lots of people have,
and driven cars,
driven lots of them. And these passenger experiences are fun, but you can't really get a lot of information from them. But this felt so novel.
Yeah.
For me at least. And then when we came back into the pits, Edward jumped out. And I was like, can I just sit in the driver's seat? Like a 5-year-old at a car show, just wanting to sit in the driver's seat. And you sit there and you go, well, the scuttle of a 750S is so low to begin with. If you've ever driven one of these newer McLarens, the view out is incredible.
Yeah.
So you couple the low scuttle with the central driving position and you realise this is the ultimate way to drive a car. And no wonder Gordon Murray pushed for it on the F1 because it's perfect.
You're right about the view, by the way, because having driven like a LMP3, was it LMP3? The Ginetta. I think it was LMP3.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a carbon tubbed, proper prototype shaped thing.
Yeah.
McLarens are the only road car I've ever driven where I'm like, this feels like I'm in. That's the standard McLarens when you're not sat in the middle.
Yeah.
Because of the shape of the windscreen, they've always got that slight more dome effect, which you get on actual race cars. And just the way you sit low, the fact that they're carbon tubbed, you can feel that, and you would have felt that 10 times over because you're strapped to it.
Yeah.
You can feel the rigidity.
That's it.
So then being in the middle, God, I can only imagine what that's like, because that's double, you're adding even more race car vibe to it.
Oh, yeah. I hope I get the opportunity to actually go and drive it when it comes out.
Yeah.
But it's just a really exciting and fun project. You sit there and you go, God, the amount of work they've done. Because you look at it and you go, it's not like a 720S's or 750S's interior is just the most spacious thing in the world. You go, how the heck have you crammed 3 seats into this?
I hadn't even thought about that.
It's
That's
the
a
same
very
glass
good point.
house, same tub.
Can't wait to see
all
that.
of it massively engineered, re-engineered to make it all work. But yeah, fascinating thing, and I can't wait to see where they go with it, because I could understand it if they had built everything from the ground up, but using a donor car. You get all the good bits of a 750S, plus it's going to have an extra 100 horsepower, plus it's going to be considerably lighter, plus it's going to look considerably different because it's got its own design.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see what they do.
Does it still sound like has it got that McLaren?
At the moment, yeah. Still sounds like it's still got the 4-litre twin-turbo V8. And they were running it in a 750S tune.
Yeah.
So it really was the main difference was the 3-seater layout. And if you looked in the exterior, the exhaust has been mounted a bit lower, and they've redone the rear lights. But otherwise, that's it. It really is a very, very, very early development mule. But while it looks like a 750S now, when they're done with it, it won't.
I hope someone will be bonkers enough or sensible enough, because it's so good, to request a Spider version, or at the very least have the 600 LT retracting rear window, pair of pipes poking upwards. That experience, what you just described, with 600 LT style fireworks in the mirror and a lowering rear window, I can't imagine anything could be better than that.
Well, it's the same person who designed the person who designed this is the same one that designed the P1 Spider that they did.
Yes.
So I mean, if anyone can do it, it's Lanzante.
Yeah.
So really excited to see what that's going to be all about. We should really get onto a car that we have driven, or you have driven.
Yes.
Because as I hinted to start it all off, you've driven the new Ioniq 6N.
Yeah. And it's very different to that because, surprise, surprise, it's battery powered. But the engagement, I mean, it's not going to be on that level, but it is a very engaging car. The 5N set the bar extremely high.
Yeah.
And pace-wise, anyone who's driven a 5N, a lot of the time when they first came out, I saw in the comments of articles and videos, people were really not sold by the idea of a fake engine electric car. But I think enough people either own a 5N or have driven a 5N that the people who don't like the sounds of it are few and far between. And even if they haven't driven one, they doubt it, that I think even they're starting to go, there's a lot of people that seem to like this. And it's not all just motoring journalists, it's people everywhere. 6N continues with this.
I still haven't driven a Ioniq 5N,
Yeah.
but so I've yet to experience the flappy paddles, but everyone raves about it so much. I can't wait to experience it myself. But let's kind of wind this back to the beginning. We'll talk about the Ioniq 6 first. So this is whereas the 5 was a hatchback in air quotes, but
Giant.
massively. It was a huge car, and
Some
it seemed to
people
get bigger every time you see it.
Some people class it as a crossover. It's like
It sort of is.
I think the normal Ioniq 5 is crossover in many categories. What's the best electric crossover to buy? And it's there in the list.
It's like if the average height of the human race was 7 foot.
Yeah.
That's kind of what a hatchback would be.
Yeah.
So it's just a bit bigger in every single way. The 6 is a Is it a hatchback or is it a saloon boot?
That's a good question. It open. I should have known that. I bloody checked
You
it.
didn't
No,
go
it was
and check
it's
the
a
boot
saloon
space?
boot. I did. It's a saloon boot.
Okay,
Yes.
so it's a 4-door,
Saloon.
almost like streamliner.
Yeah.
Design. So
It's
a
a
really
bit-
cool looking thing, very coupe-ish.
It is. I have to admit, from some angles, and I think because the N has, we'll get into this, but it has smaller wheels than the 5N.
Yeah.
That it doesn't feel, the 5N wears all of its muscle really well. I think it just looks right.
Yeah.
This to me felt a little bit awkward in places. I liked it up close. The rear I really liked up close
Yeah.
because of the wing and everything. It's just crazy. And it reminded me of an old NASCAR because it had that, as you mentioned, the angle. Like it kind of reminded me of sort of the opposite of what you'd expect on the rear. But I think it was a bit awkward at the front.
At the front, really? Because I think that it's quite... So with this Ioniq 6N, design-wise, what they've done is as you would expect, they've beefed it up. You have a kind of a splitter. You have a much more kind of like aggressive front bumper. You have deeper skirts down the side, and you've got a little wing at the back. It's the sort of wing that I really like on cars because it's not apologetic, but it's not massive. It's there to just kind of... I think it fits.
I think it's
quite
pretty
well.
massive.
You think it's pretty massive?
I think it's pretty massive. It's gigantic. It doesn't look that big there, but it's because you can't see it. You need an above shot. It's bench wide. It's bench wide. It's that wide. Yeah.
Okay.
So and it does add serious downforce. I can't remember the numbers, but they've effectively made this car to be slightly more. I think they without saying it. I think they were accepting that the 5N can be a little bit leery. So what they were talking about in this was high speed stability. Which when they were talking about it, I was like, where's the fun in that? But I get it. These are fast cars. These are supercar fast machines.
Yeah.
3.2 seconds to 62, this one is.
So walk me through it. So what have they changed between the Ioniq 6 and the 6N?
Well, I'll hold. So there's one key thing that I'll hold to the end because there's a lot of other smaller things as well. So the main thing, obviously, the body shape is different. So it's got a 15 millimeter longer wheelbase, which again adds to the idea of stability. Wow. Yes, it's a little bit longer. And also the aerodynamics on the nose, they've got some active cooling bits, which, is not groundbreaking stuff, but apparently it makes it slipperier when it doesn't need cooling and better at cooling when it does need cooling. Smaller wheel, 20 inches, rather than 20 ones that you get on the 5N. So you've got a thicker sidewall. And also at the rear of the car, you've got the natural 6 spoiler, but then you've got the wing on top. So there's sort of double aero going on there. So overall, it's a more stable, a slightly lighter car as well, 50 kilograms lighter. Power output's identical to the 5N, 650 horsepower, I always get the pound feet. It's 560-ish pound-feet of torque.
A lot of
plenty.
Torque. Yeah.
And that's in boost mode, but I mean, it's not much less in non-boost mode.
Yeah.
You get a kick if you press the boost mode button, but generally speaking, it's just, effing fast.
Yeah.
So it's one of those cars where you just can't believe how quick it is. But then actually how quickly you get on top of it because it just, the way they've done the ergonomics and stuff, it is really good. But the key change, the big difference between this and the 5N is the suspension.
Right, okay.
Because it has a really active, the 5N you can change the modes and make it stiffer, softer based on the modes. This is constantly adjusting depending on road circumstance and your driving inputs. So you have your modes, but you also have the live active suspension, which makes a big difference. That plus the wheels, because you've got a thicker sidewall, mean this car rides noticeably better than the 5N. The 5N's not uncomfortable, but it's firm at points, feels its weight because of the firmness in some places on British roads in particular. This, having not driven it in the UK, but having driven over speed bumps in Spain, it felt a lot softer, a bit more cushioned. So as a daily, very nice. It's going to be really lovely. But the most exciting change, because these cars are all about their fake engine stuff, is it has a shorter ratio gearbox.
Oh, that's incredible.
8-speed dual clutch simulated, shorter ratios. So instead of, accelerating hard and changing gear every second and a half, at some points you're changing gear while revving it out with your foot to the floor in what feels like 8/10. So it's ba, 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 ba.
That's amazing.
It feels like, having never driven a rallycross car, but having seen them, it feels like when they launch rallycross cars and their top speeds are 100 mile an hour because they've got 6 gears stacked nose to tail.
Yeah.
It's like that, but because you've got 8 speeds, it will still do 160 mile an hour. Again, air quotes, 8 speeds. It will still do 160 miles per hour in simulated mode. So
it's interesting because you kind of think because it's an electric powertrain, and most of that I imagine will be software driven. Because they go, we've made the virtual gear ratio shorter. You could kind of imagine you could take your Ioniq 5N and be like, can you do the same for mine, please? Because
I bet they could.
Yeah, I don't know how they're... There's probably a lot more that goes into it than just a patch. But it just shows you how different this world is of like, we've done this, and it's, by the way, it's all software based. There's no mechanical difference whatsoever. It
feels mechanical though, it really does, because the way it did in the 5N as well, but it's the way that every time you do an upshift you get sort of a punch, a very soft, it's not uncomfortable, sort of a tap in the back of the head, because it's kind of they've simulated that banging of cogs. And I've mentioned this before about the 5N, so I won't go on about too much, but the fact that you've got engine braking simulated, so as you're downshifting it really slows you down, and the fact that you can put it in automatic mode in the gear simulation, so you can run normal, and you can drive around town at town speeds, and it's just short shifting automatically. You're just driving it 2 hands on the wheel, not shifting. So you effectively are it's like a super Golf R, it feels like, an automatic performance car trundling around. And a lot of people, fair enough, would be like, what's the point of that? I mean, there is no point. It's just really fun, and it's just funny. And I prefer it because it just feels more, I don't know, there's something more about it. It just adds a sense of theatre to something that otherwise, especially when you're driving it slow, would have no theatre. People say electric cars feel like fridge freezers or whatever insult you want to throw at them, and a lot of them do. This would do if you drove it around in purely electric mode at low speed, but suddenly you've got this thing ticking over. It goes from notes that are almost like a bit V8 at low revs to, it sort of sings a song of like a flat 6 at high revs. It's got real synthesized character.
And with that note, is it literally just plucked out of thin air? They create it themselves, or do they amplify kind of electronic noises from the motors? Because I've seen some manufacturers do that.
I mean, like Porsche have done that with the Taycan, haven't they? They sort of like, they sort of play the notes. And I do really like it when people do that, because the notes can sound quite cool. This isn't though. This is fully synthesized.
I see.
The cool thing is that, well, 2 things. Number one is the note is inspired by their race cars. So that's the i30 and i20Ns that they race around at the Nürburgring. So there's a bit of 4-pot growl and rumble to it, but as I said, it's got a bit more to it as well. It still sounds a bit like a video game. Not by accident. I think they're accepting that. They want it to be a bit silly as well. But you can hear, under high power on track, where I drove the car as well, you can actually hear the real whine of some motor at high speed. So you've got this 2-layer of soundtrack, synthesized noises, which, by the way, are 360 around the car. So when you're downshifting, exhaust pops and crackles are coming out the back speakers. So as a driver, it's so immersive, it's not silly. There are some cars that synthesize and you're like, it's so obvious the sound's coming out of these speakers in the door. They've done it so the noise sounds like it's coming from there, and it just feels real. Honestly.
Sound pointing forwards and backwards, by the way, if you're listening.
For listeners, pointing there being for the front and there being the back. It's really well done. They did it, honestly, I didn't think they could do much better from the 5N, but they have just enhanced everything in this as well.
It's interesting because I remember talking to, whenever I've seen kind of EV performance cars come out and you try and talk to people about it. You talk to people about these fake gears. And the response I've always got is kind of like, well, why would we do that? Because it's an electric powertrain and it's inefficient. And you just pointed out that the reason is because it's fun.
It's just fun.
And I think there's been a severe lack of fun. Not to go off on a massive tangent, severe lack of fun in pretty much everything in life. But I think in the car industry as well, there's just, you remember when it was Subarus and Mitsubishis where you just have all-wheel drive monsters that weren't that expensive and they weren't built especially well, but they were just fun, and you got all that cool rally tech. It's not efficient, but it's for having fun. That's what I kind of see in something like this, of where it's like, well, okay, I guess they've gone down the EV route, and some people aren't going to like it, and I do understand why someone does think it's just fake. I would much rather have something real, but there's a lot of people have to go and make EVs now. And if you're going to do it, it's kind of make the best of a bad situation. And this looks like fun. I look at it and I think I would really like to drive that. And I don't especially like driving cars that are shouty for other people. I like having... I give me loads of... That's what's really good with a lot of modern Porsches, is that the outside, they're actually not that loud, but you get a load of intake sound, because that's what I want to hear. I want to hear intake. And so if you've got that and you get all that feedback from inside... That's the best bit, right?
This has this doubly so because there's no external noise. There are some external noises which are like the ones they have to have for safety. There's an external noise button on the touchscreen, and we were turning it on and off trying to figure out what it did, and I couldn't tell the difference. It just makes electric car sounds outside, and inside you've got the whole race going on. But because the volume gets quite loud at higher speed, when I was watching cars go by at higher speed on track, you could hear the same way if someone drives by with music on really loud. Even with the windows up, you can hear it. So you can hear it, but you can tell it's inside the car. So it's not shouty, and that's only at high speed. So in a built-up area, it's less likely you're going to have that. It's really cool. It's not perfect, by the way. It's still just over 2 tons, 50 kg lighter than the 5N. You're still 2.1 tons. It still feels its weight at points. The active suspension definitely helps to counter it, but on track in particular, on the road, the grip limit's just so high that the only time you're at the limit of grip is when you're kind of winding back the stability control a little bit and just allowing little tickles of oversteer, nothing seriously, just little kicks of oversteer, a degree or two. On track, when you switch all the systems off, you are aware when you push to the limits of the grip that the front axle just wants to push naturally, and that's not by accident. Clearly, they've set it up to be stable. They said stability loads in the press in the preceding briefing. Clearly, they've gone with that in this. So it's got a little bit of safety understeer in it, but the tiniest amount, which means you really have to load the car up, use trail braking into a corner or just a really aggressive steering input to then get the car to rotate naturally, or you put it in ESC Sport or switch the ESC off and just boot the right foot. I did that once or twice too much and actually had a spin because, I was just like, right, let's see what 770 Newton meters, 560 pound-feet of torque is like around this corner. And I found out very quickly that it was good enough to just rotate me on the spot.
I saw your post on Instagram, and it didn't look like it snapped on you. It literally looked like it just let go, essentially.
If I was more ready for the slide, and especially if I was a better driver, I would have caught it. But it was a track scenario. I was trying to get some tracking shots, and I just thought I'll just keep my foot pinned and just try and spin it around. But it didn't actually spin the full circle. But it's such a fun little car like that because it's not little, is it, at all? It feels little in those moments. It's such a fun car in that regard because it doesn't take itself too seriously. It's not like if you're driving a very high-end Porsche GT car and you're talking about, did I lose the car? Is it a bit, you start thinking, is it set up in the right way? This, you're kind of like, this is all about the fun. I mean, there's a drift mode in it. And the drift mode, you can adjust not only how the power and torque are delivered, but also how it simulates a handbrake motion. So if you lift off the accelerator into a corner, it will rapidly apply regen to the rear axle, which will kind of replicate like handbrake turning. Only in drift mode, by the way. That's not a normal feature.
Just great engineering.
It's brilliant.
I love seeing this kind of stuff.
It's great.
Where it's all this exciting. It's all stuff to make you enjoy the car. Versus just in the pure name of efficiency. Having not driven these N versions, I know that. I remember driving the Ioniq 5, and a lot of Hyundais, where they're always. I was definitely driving them when they started going from kind of a bit budget and a bit rubbish to these are actually really good cars. I remember driving the 5 and being like, this feels like a fantastic car. It just doesn't have the tautness or the kind of that extra layer of polish that you would get in maybe like a German equivalent. When you're driving something like this, it's got all these enhancements, the active suspension, stickier tires, bigger brakes. Are you noticing, does it feel like a car you want to go and take out on track and chuck around? Or is there still that degree of disconnection that you get in a standard Hyundai road car?
I mean, it's not the steering in particular. There are very few electric cars that have good steering feel. It's typically Porsches that do it well. The Taycan, out the gates, has done a brilliant job with that. This has a bit of steering feel, but not tons. You get more information actually through the chassis and through the floor of the car. So if you're out driving on the roads and you just drive at 5/10 and you just want to feel a car for all of its communication, there is a bit of that through the chassis, but because the grip levels are so high and because the steering feel isn't massive, really you need to use the gears to start feeling engaged, the fake gears. If you just want to drive around for handling purposes, it is, especially this versus the 5N, because it's a little bit more stable, a bit more safe. It doesn't scream like, I just love going around at half speed and I get loads of joy from that, unless you're really using the simulator gears, in which case it's great. Track driving, yes, it is brilliant. And I didn't get as much tyre wear as I thought because I was trying to chuck it around. I thought it was going to do its tyres in 2.5 laps, but they looked good. They were Pirelli P0 bespoke compound for this car. It is really rewarding. I'm not going to pretend it's more rewarding than a Cayman GT4 or something like that. It's not. The feel that you get through the controls is a step back. But versus a standard 5 and a 6, I've not driven a 6, but assuming it's like the standard 5 that you talked about, big difference. You know, it's like jumping from, you know, in my case, it's probably like going from a standard Mark II Clio 1.2, whatever they were called, to a 182. It's that type of change.
Almost just
and more.
Almost unrecognisable, really, from the standard
different
car, because so much change.
Different car. Yeah, absolutely.
The interesting thing, though, is that they've, you know, you've gone and you've driven it on track, and it's very much billed as a track-focused car.
Or track capable, they're saying with this one.
Track capable, is that what? Okay. Yeah. But the thing is, I remember talking to some other manufacturers that were building electric performance cars, and I always say, okay, well, you're building in some track capability here. How is that? How long is it going to last on track? Yeah. And they go about like 10 laps, and then you've got to go and charge it up, and then you know, I don't know. I've not really seen many charging stations at track days recently, but my thinking is, the battery's going to run, you know, how quickly is the battery going to run out? Where are you going to charge it? And also, you can't just go and take it on a regular track day, can you? You've got to have something that is a sanctioned EV day, because you need all the extra safety measures in place. Yeah.
Well, Hyundai's thinking about that. They have already, you know, this is public knowledge. They've already launched a supercharger. They've got their own word for that, by the way, but it's rapid. I think it's 400 kilowatts, if I remember correctly.
Blimey.
Yeah, which is obviously very quick. At one of the circuits they use in Korea, and also they've got 4 at the Nürburgring, and they are. This is the best bit. They're free to use. The electricity is free, so they'll charge your car in about 10 to 20 minutes, depending on how much battery you want. And for a Hyundai owner, they're free. Now, I don't know if that's open to the public. I don't know if you live near the Nürburgring, if you just rolled in your standard one, can use it. I presume you can. I don't know how it works, but it's certainly intended to be used for people who are driving on the circuit. And their philosophy is 20-20-20-20-20, which is to say 20 minutes of track driving, 20 minutes of rapid charging, 20 minutes of track driving, and so on, endlessly until you run out of tyres or you want to go home or the track closes. That's their philosophy. They want to roll this out in other countries and other places. And I did ask the PR team for Hyundai for the UK, and there's absolutely no word on whether this is happening, but of course they want it to. And so they have a relationship with MSV already here. I think they supply cars to them. I think the MSV guys run around with Hyundais on track, I think, as support vehicles or whatever. So they've already got a relationship. The plan is the intention, there's no plan as of yet, is to roll something out like that over here. So I don't know, Bedford Autodrome feels like an early,
absolutely,
you know, an easy one.
You know, safe place
you'd love it to be
it
at some of the older circuits, but yeah, Bedford feels like probably an easy first one. Maybe they could have a charger or two, a couple of Ioniqs, N cars roll up at that track day. That would be mega.
At least we've got small circuits here, because I was just thinking, you were saying that about the 2020 rule, is that if you go to the Nürburgring, your lap is, if you're really on it, it will be in the 7-8 minute tier. But if you're like me, you're probably going to be clocking in a 9/10.
I think you surprised yourself in one of these. I think you'd be quicker than you'd expect.
Okay, great. Well, let's go with an 8 minute. So therefore, you've got an out lap, and then you can go and do a flyer. And then you've got to hope you've got enough battery to then get back to the pits and then go and charge
up. I'd just do one lap, because you don't want to be broke down on the Nürburgring. So.
Exactly. But, you know, if you're like 90% of people that go to the Nürburgring are more than happy to just do a lap and then come off, charge up, recharge themselves, and then go back out for it. So it's fascinating that they're thinking about doing this. And also, you know, having done track days and then gone to fill up there, it can be so unbelievably expensive.
Oh my god, track day fuel is crazy,
horrifically expensive. So the idea that you could go and have fun, because the whole point of the thing that always stops me from going and doing track days more often is not only that, you know, the car that I could take on a track day would disintegrate within a few laps, but it is the fact that the fuel costs an absolute bomb, and it can absolutely wreck your car. If you can take the fuel aspect away from that, it does make you want to go, I'll go and take the Ioniq. It's not the perfect car for it, but I mean, you're still going to have a lot of fun.
I think at the Nürburgring, it's probably because we drove at, I forget this cat, I always get the name wrong, that lovely track outside of Barcelona, which is at the motor park venue. That's a really challenging track with off-camber braking zones and stuff. So for heavy cars, that's a real challenge. I'm not trying to pretend the Nürburgring's not a challenge. It's a massive challenge. But they engineered the car and a lot of the setup at the Nürburgring. So it might even be more naturally suited to that circuit. As well. And the other key thing I always forget, and I didn't even mention this in my review because I always assume it's second nature, like everyone knows this, but to be fair, some people might forget that the warranties offered by Hyundai include track day allowance.
Just wild.
That's never been the case.
Wild.
Did Renault Sport do it? Because I think of Hyundai N as I think of the old Renault Sport, but obviously in a new world with their electric cars. Because they're really good at supporting the track day driver, and they're really good at, they have their own events, and the UK team are really active and engaged with the performance drivers who own Hyundai. So it feels like a Renault Sport of the modern world. And obviously I know they're not cheap cars, but with the finance deals and stuff, they can be a lot more attainable, like an old Renault Sport would have been. So yeah, I mean, they really are trying to tap into that market, and fair play. You know, if you can't afford a Porsche, or you don't want a Porsche because you need you want a car that's more like this, this isn't, you know, I'm not trying to pretend it drives like a performance Porsche. It's different, but it's not a million miles off.
I'm genuinely really glad that at least someone is making EVs fun.
That's the key point,
exciting.
Right? Oh, and I almost forgot, Ferrari's benchmarking its upcoming EV with a 5N. That is a really
good bit of news.
That's a big plus, and emphasis on how good these are. In the gear shifters.
that is. I had no idea they were doing that, and for them to say that, and presumably for us to be able to repeat it, I mean, just shows that it just shows the amount of respect they have as well for what Hyundai's doing.
Yeah,
there you go, incredible. Right, what happens though if you don't have a budget of £65,800, but you like cars from that part of the world, and you would like to have one as your daily runabout? That is what has been asked by An Ban Bao. I think that's how you pronounce it. And they've said, and I've trimmed this down a little bit because it was an extremely long post. So they've asked, I've been procrastinating again, as we do,
and we all,
especially on PH. And whilst I'm 90% sure I've settled on my choice, there's always a part of me that wonders, is there something else for me that does most of the job, but for half the price? My wife's learning to drive and will ultimately take over a 2015 Suzuki Swift Sport, which at the moment is the household's only car. We'll likely require another bigger car due to stopping working from home, and hopefully a second child on the way before too long. In a past thread, I've mentioned wanting a Civic Type R, and an FK8 is where my money will be going. Have always loved them, but if it's 80% of the FL5 for almost half the price at the moment, then I think it's a relative bargain. It is tempting, however, to consider if there's something for half the price that I've missed. Would need to fit the following criteria. 5 doors with a decent sized boot. Reasonably quick, have never owned anything quicker than a GT86. Stop sniggering at the back. Walking will feel faster.
And they're fun though.
They are fun.
Really fun.
They can go sideways, all within the speed limit. Ideally, not huge maintenance fees / poor reliability will be my daily driver and cover about 10,000 miles a year. Still needs to be a PH type car with a degree of excitement. Something that other enthusiasts would recognise and admire. So, this, I feel like I say this for every challenge, this was more difficult than you might think. For £10,000, and I've cut this out, but they say they do tend to lean towards Japanese performance cars, and so would therefore quite like one of those. To find a Japanese performance car for 10 grand that fits that criteria is not impossible, but not far off.
Yeah.
So I've included a car that I think fits the criteria well, that is from Europe, but I have managed to find some Japanese specials, and they are properly special.
Yeah.
I can see from your list, though, that you've actually managed to get all of your cars from Japan. So what have you got?
Yeah, I mean, my cars aren't quite as fast because, as you said, it was tricky to find cars in this selection. But naturally, obviously, if it's got to be PH appropriate, that sometimes means can it be unreliable because they're more interesting and I have to do a load of forum posts about how to fix it. Well, let me introduce you to a car we all know well, the Mazda RX-8. A car that is, you know, it's getting on a bit. What's this, 2008? But it's only 37,600 miles, 4 previous owners. And as we know, That high revving rotary engine is
nice.
It's a lot of motor for a 1300cc unit. And of course, 4 doors. Rear doors are quite cool as well, the way they open.
Famously reliable.
Yeah, famously, yes. And definitely do not drink a lot of oil.
If you don't drive them. Yes, and they're definitely not thirsty from an oil perspective.
It was compression tested, though, only 10 days prior to us recording this, according to the ad. So
that's which is really good. Yeah. This one genuinely looks like it's been properly well looked after. So 37,600 miles, 4 previous owners. It's incredible that they managed to squeeze 231 horsepower from that little 1.3 rotary unit. Yeah. But PH's Matt Bird is desperate to get one.
Oh, good. Well, I approve of that.
I mean, I've been here for knocking on the door of 4 years, and he was talking about it 4 years ago.
Yeah.
But you have to be a little bit brave.
He has to get sign off from the missus.
Yeah.
It's one of those ones.
Who doesn't? It's very much a car that you need to give it everything to keep it running. But because they are so famously attention-seeking from a maintenance standpoint, the values of them have plummeted. Again, this one's 7,950.
Yeah.
For a Japanese performance car that looks great, has definitely got some quirks to it, with relative low mileage. I think that's fantastic, and that leaves $2,000 in the bank.
Exactly.
To make sure that it is absolutely squeaky clean. But it's a 40th anniversary version, so it's got a little bit special. It's white. I don't know if that's a pearl white or not, but there's some budget left over to make it as sweet as possible.
Crystal pearl white. There you go.
There we go.
Lovely.
I love a pearl white.
Yeah.
On the right car.
So it looks like, it's compression test and everything, so it looks like it is in good health as it sits.
Properly detailed listing that.
That is, well written as well.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah. The next car's a little bit, compared to that, is considerably safer as a reliability bet. It's also not going to be as quick because we've only got 141 horsepower apparently.
It's also missing some doors.
It's missing some doors, but there are seats in the back. It's an 06 Toyota Celica, but it's only $5,000. I was really clutching at straws here, but I've always liked these.
Same. Yeah, I've always liked these as well, and I feel like there's, you can get them dirt cheap. They were supposedly meant to be really quite good to drive.
They were. I think good gearbox, nice revvy engine, variable valve. So
it's Toyota, so it'll be over-engineered, won't it?
Exactly. So I think they're quite a nice thing. I think they look quite cool. There are more pictures to be added on this ad, so we're currently looking at 3 images, but I think a few more will be added by the time this goes out. So yeah, it looks like a tidy example, but I won't dwell on that one for too long because as you've highlighted, it doesn't have enough doors.
My thinking, however, is when I saw this car, because it's 4,995, 91,000 miles, only 2 previous owners.
Oh yeah.
My thinking was this could be quite a fun little project car.
It could.
Because I feel like, because it is a very tidy example, I imagine the tuning potential is immense.
Yes.
And while it's probably not going to feel the plushest inside, I mean, that's $5,000. It's like what we had with Piston's project car with the GTI. There's a lot you can do with $5,000 to completely transform a car.
Supercharge.
Yes, it's got 141 horsepower, but slap a supercharger on it.
Yeah.
Toyota loves supercharging stuff.
Yeah.
And have at it.
Exactly. And you can keep it as a bit of a sleeper, a bit of a Q car as well if you wanted to.
If you kept that stock, that would be hilarious.
Yeah, that would
just
look good.
On the outside.
Yeah. So I didn't do the doors right on that one.
Yeah.
I'm going to do the roof wrong on this one.
Oh my God. And the doors. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And the doors. Yeah, exactly. So it's a double wrong.
Well, who needs doors when there's no roof and you can you can jump in like the Fonz?
Exactly. Now, I've never driven one of these. I don't really have any prior experience or anything close to these. But it's a Lexus SC430, which means it's a 2005 drop top with a 4.3 litre V8.
Previous podcast host John Howell absolutely hated
I'm not
these.
surprised.
Like, whenever he saw one, he would be overcome with apoplectic rage. I don't know what it is. So these came out before 2005. I mean, I was 12. And so, yes, before my time as a car journalist, but I know how the reaction from car journalists at the time was pretty vitriolic. Is that a word? But on paper, it's a 4.3 litre V8. I mean, they've only managed to get 280 horsepower from it.
It's that describing the gearbox as smooth as well just tells you all you need to know. What is it, a torque converter? I don't even know. It must be.
Oh yeah, it'll be slush-tastic.
It'll be slush-tastic.
But it should sound pretty good.
Yeah.
Also, people think these cars are hideous. Have you seen cars today?
True.
How is this hideous compared to, I guess, back in those days?
Cars were very pretty.
I don't even think it was ugly back then, to be honest.
I think it's just it's a Japanese convertible in the sense that it's not trying to be, although actually I was going to reference to the
it's not flashy.
the NCMX5, like it's kind of a soft, squishy, cuddly thing.
It is.
And this is kind of not a million miles off that. Look, it ticks some boxes and then doesn't tick many others, but as a car to be interesting, exciting, and just, the noise of that V8 is going to be fun, isn't it? And the kids are going to love it, surely.
That's a woofly V8 top. For $7,000.
Yeah. Exactly.
How many miles has it done?
It has done 84,000 miles.
Oh, which is just barely ran in for a Toyota. So, I mean, that's an interesting choice.
It's
it's silver with, I'm assuming, a black interior. Yes. Oh my god, I actually assumed right for once.
Yeah.
Cool. It looks very posh. It's like an SL 500, but for a lot less.
Yeah.
And
electric folding roof.
Maybe not quite as cool, but
Anyway,
we've only got $10,000 to go with. So, very interesting suggestions there, Sam Sheehan. I, however, think I've done better than you.
Yeah. You nabbed these quite quick.
Mainly because there wasn't. I jumped on these as quick as I could. This is a car. So the first one I've gone for is a Subaru Impreza wagon.
Yeah.
Right. Now, when I saw this, I thought that looks like a Tommy Kyra body kit, and then I searched it up and I was like, it's not a Tommy Kyra. And so I was like, maybe it's just a dodgy body kit that someone's put on it. So I kind of put it to one side, and then I came back to it because it looks too professional. You look at it and you go, that actually looks like it's been done by a Japanese tuner back in period. And I was right. This is a Impreza wagon type Euro. So I did some digging to see what was special about this Euro design, and thinking that it was maybe an aftermarket tuner. But as far as I can gather, no, this is a factory Subaru kit that was put on, limited to 223 units, so it's rare, but also it was designed in collaboration with Porsche Design.
Wow, yeah.
So Porsche's had an influence on this Subaru kit, and I think it looks great.
It does. And through the lens now, because obviously, like, I don't know if you've noticed, but all these late 90s modified Novas and Corsas and the JDM stuff, the stuff that looks extreme and was like max power worthy, all back in fashion.
Yeah.
Because I think people of the age, when that stuff was really, I guess you'd be people who were first driving in the 90s. That was when they were really powering the stuff. All back in fashion. This, I think, is back in fashion.
Well, I saw it and I thought, that's kind of interesting. Yeah. It's only £4,500. Recently imported from Japan, so shouldn't have a boatload of rust. And 67,250 miles. The looks are going to be divisive, but we were talking about something that would appeal to a potential... people like us, it caught my eye immediately. So if you brought that to a Pistonhead Sunday service, I'm sure it'll do the same. Is it just me, or is there a slight bit of 996 turbo in the front there? I mean,
it does look really good. You're right, and I think in the metal it look even better because photos never kind of do justice to body kits, do they?
And it's rare.
Yeah.
Is it a rare and nobody cares? I certainly care.
No, I think people care about that.
There we go. 4,500, well under budget. Second car. Is non-Japanese, but I know how brilliant these are, and I want what they are. Just stuck at $10,000.
Yeah.
They're not going any lower, no matter how many times I look. And it is a Mark V Golf GTI Edition 30. Now these had more power than a standard GTI. I think they were bumped up to 230 horsepower. They also come with body-coloured bumpers front and rear, whereas if you get a regular Mark V, they've got these plastic bits at the bottom that don't look great. Yeah. But they also come with these really, really lovely BBS wheels. I don't know if they were actually BBS or BBS style, but they look absolutely fantastic. This one is black with kind of like a dark gunmetal-y finish to the wheel.
That's great.
It looks absolutely astonishing, and it's got the tartan interior. But I remember when we did Project Car, I remember driving, we had a black GTI, regular GTI Mark V, and it was fun and it was fast, but it was very good at ticking all the boxes. It didn't feel especially fizzy. You know, you didn't get it and you go, oh, this is great fun. I then, a couple of years later, drove the Mark V, the Edition 30 like this at the Nürburgring.
Yeah.
And it blew my socks off. It didn't come with a limited slip diff, but budget left over for one. And that was absolutely what we felt like our one needed. It definitely needed a slippy diff. So with that, it'll be perfect. I know that you're after Japanese cars and Bao, but that GTI is really good. Yeah. But if you're like, no, it's Japanese cars or nothing, well, instead of an FK8, why not have an FD2?
Yeah.
The Japanese only Civic Type R, and I think this was technically the last naturally aspirated Honda Civic Type R, because we had the FD, the FD2 in the UK, which is the hatchback. This one is a saloon. It's coming up for auction on Monday, the 23rd of March. So by the time this goes out, it would have just gone live. So you've still got time to get your bids in. It's done 101,000 miles, just shy of 102 actually. However, what's really interesting about this, not only being a JDM car, but it's got loads of bits on it from. I thought it was called JS Racing, but it's actually J's. So if you look at it, it's a J with a little apostrophe between it. So J's Racing, which is a legendary Japanese tuner that are known for doing time trials at Tsukuba Circuit, which is one of my favorite tracks ever. So these guys really know how to make a Civic go fast. And the look of this one, yes, it's got a big wing on it. It's got a different splitter. It's got some really very cool wheels, actually, that don't look all that different to the GTIs. But it's got some Recaros in there too. Oh, it looks brilliant.
Yeah, it looks so good.
Beefier brakes. I mean, this thing is going to really set your pants on fire. Yeah. I mean, it's such a cool thing. It does look a smidgen boy racery. Yeah. But I mean, we're comparing this to an FK8.
Yeah.
It looks subtle compared to an FK8.
I think a central plate on that, you would clean up the front end quite quickly. It's just the side plate on that makes it look very boy racery.
It does.
I guess
put
it's
a central plate on it.
Yeah, I guess it's
put a central
intake.
plate on it, because that would be I mean, you're not going to be, unless you're tracking it all the time, it's not going to make that much of a difference. And being a Honda, 102,000 miles is nothing.
That's fine. Yeah, that'll be solid.
And these, I mean, the last of the naturally aspirated VTECs are so good. They sound fantastic. And with all the J's racing bits on it, should be even better.
And the gearboxes as well. Lovely boxes.
The only thing is, being an auction, is that you might probably end up spending more than 10k. I think with something like this as well, you would struggle to get an FD2 for 10k, especially with these J's racing bits on them. So I'm still going to put it forward. I think this is the car that I think you might be spending a bit more than 10k, but if it was this or an FK8, this is at least a little bit different. People are going to see this and be like, hang on a minute, is that a J's racing thing? So that's what I'm going to put forward.
Very cool. Well, I mean, of my list, I'm going to have to put forward the RX-8 100%, because high risk but high reward.
It's also the only car that you've got.
It's also the only car that
4/5 doors. So if you're listening to this on Spotify, what you can do is actually vote on whose car is best. It's just something I like to hang over Sam, or vice versa. But if you think that we've both been absolutely rubbish, I'll leave a link to the topic on the story, which will be going live on the homepage when this podcast goes out. You can head in there and put your own suggestions in. Help a PHer in need. To round things off, we are lagging behind as usual. It's just a post by Lanes called "Favorite Performance Cars with a Single Exhaust." This would be terrible dinner chat with anybody else other than car nerds like us. So I thought, no one's going to be able to talk about this over a pint. Let's get it done on the podcast, because I love a performance car with a single exhaust. Yeah. And a single central exhaust is even better. So Lane says, I was watching Chris Harris's latest video earlier with the Conti R, and it got me thinking of performance cars of the past with only one exhaust. I'm not sure there are any new ones on the market these days. Mini Cooper S, JCW's got a single exhaust, I believe.
Fair play Mini.
And even 20 years ago, it was a rare occurrence. Although I do own one myself, a 968 Club Sport. Nice. They really shouldn't appeal due to the asymmetric look, but I've always been a fan for some reason. Anyway, here are some of my favourites, although there are probably quite a few others I've missed. So they put down a lot. So I've gone for the Continental T that was mentioned. I saw a Conti T at Goodwood the other day, and it was astonishingly good looking.
Nice,
it's such a good looking car. They've put obviously the 964 Carrera RS.
Oh, yeah.
Hard to imagine an RS Porsche with only one exhaust, but they did that. And the Nissan Sunny / Pulsar GTIR. I adore these. The values of them, by the way, are horrific these days.
What are they going for?
Oh, like 30 to 40.
Oh, man.
For a good one, 30 to 40. But I mean, you're talking about a Nissan Sunny / Pulsar, depending on which region you bought it. Homologation special with a boatload of power.
Yeah, very cool car.
So SJC's gone for the Lotus Evora.
Nice, good job.
Exige S V6 as well. They also have central exhaust, a single central. We'll get onto this. I don't know if it's two exhausts in a single shroud.
Because it's got a weird shape as well, hasn't it?
It does.
So it's definitely got space for two, but
the Evora, as far as I'm aware, is a single exit. They've also got so Glenn63 said a Supra with a massive fart can at the back. Like there is something about like the old JD, because I was thinking of a Mazda RX-7 FD with a massive can hanging out the back.
Yeah.
I just think they look really cool. Maybe because I'm a 90s kid.
Oh, I like this one.
EPOM Ford Escort RS Cosworth.
Lovely.
Just looks right. Did you know, however, that some of the rally cars had side exit exhausts?
I didn't.
Yeah, they had a little
single.
If you look at it, it's actually a triple. Ooh. Weirdly, but I think it's a flat exit with veins in it that makes it look like a triple. But yeah, the rally cars had some of them had side exit exhaust, which is very cool. TVR Cigaris has said that definitely didn't have a single exit exhaust. Has gone for the original Mini Cooper S.
Oh, that was a proper pea shooter.
It's a proper pea shooter. I love a single pea shooter. I think they look so good. But this one, I thought this when you're getting so wonderfully nerdy. Heathwood said the Koenigsegg Regera, which is the like single speed mega hypercar. But Funk, PHUNK, points out that it's not actually a single exit exhaust. There are two exhausts in the diffuser, and the Regera's central exhaust is to dissipate heat from the hybrid system.
Right.
Which is actually what an exhaust is.
Yeah, it's exhausting heat. Yes.
So if anything, it has three exhausts, two of which for the engine, one of which to expel heat from the hybrid system. My God, this is nerdy. But I had to think about what central or single exit exhaust that I was fond of. But what have you got first, Sam?
Well, I got called to shame, didn't I? Because I was like, oh, Renault Sport, the Clio 172. And you were like, yeah, but it was hidden, Sam. Yes, it was. It was tucked away. Because I'm thinking all the modified ones I see on the forums with the little pea shooters, which looks so cool.
Because that's why I always think the 172 looks a bit off to me. It's got the right wheels. Because you've got 172 wheels on your 182.
172 cup wheels, yeah.
That's it.
Which are higher offset, and they were,
speed lines.
Bit lighter, better for brake cooling, and a bigger offset, so they sit a bit further out.
They look perfect. Yeah. They fit the Clio, Mark II Clio body perfectly. The only thing that I've always thought with those 172s is that they just don't look quite right without having an exhaust out the back. So the modified ones, with little ones poking out,
love it.
So much better.
Yeah. I think Ben had one with a pea shooter, didn't he, back in the day?
I know that when I joined PH, he had a 172 with a custom exhaust.
I think he had a pea shooter.
Draining. I saw him after a 2-hour drive, and I've never seen him more broken. It was a broken man.
Broken man from the pea shooter. Well, anyway, so I've gone for an A110 Alpine because it's fresh in my memory. Because they do have a section. Yeah. It's one of those ones where it's got the shroud, but it might have more to it underneath, but definitely the surround is single.
We've not had a good enough nose up the backside of an A110.
I was in an A110 the other day, but I didn't spend much of the time behind it. I was behind the wheel of it. So, because it's so really, really good.
Yeah.
And it was kind of the same story with the i20N Hyundai. That also has a single oval shape. It's almost like an Audi RS oval shaped exhaust.
Yeah.
But I think inside I've noticed there's two, when you get the tight, like pea shooters in a literal sense, I think it might have that inside, but visibly a single exit. Obviously I've got to talk about an MX-5, NA MX-5, standard single exhaust. The car that inspired it had a Mini Cooper S style pea shooter in the middle, was the Lotus Elan. And the Sprint is my favourite of that bunch, obviously.
Absolutely.
So you get a lovely, it just unashamedly hangs off. You can even see the mountings, they hang off visible from behind the car because it's poking out quite high.
That's another...
Just didn't care. They were just like, this is an exhaust.
Another thing I get a little bit excited about is a kind of an exhaust mounting.
Yeah.
This is
if it's a
this
proper
is the only
fixed
place
one.
I feel safe where I can talk about this kind of stuff. But when you see like a really good exhaust mounting...
Yeah.
Or just, that little like bracket that holds it.
And they're welded beautifully. Some of them have like a V. Yeah, I think the pea shooters on the 172 Cups that I've seen.
Yeah.
God, they're lovely.
Really
and the mounts are chrome coloured, not actual chrome.
I love it.
Polished up metal. A car I've always loved is the Porsche 944. We mentioned a Porsche earlier, 944 Turbo S. Yeah. That only has a single exit. And then when I was looking at them thinking, oh God, I really want to own one of these, I came across the Turbo Cup car, which is just proof that, you can have race cars. I mean, Formula One cars famously have one main single exhaust, don't they? But I think they have two smaller for oil exhaust and stuff, cooling.
Oh, they've got, I think they're single exit now, but it used to be for the turbo blow off.
That was
I think.
Yeah. So they kind of had more than one exhaust, but it's proof that there are smart cars that have a 3-cylinder engine with the old ones with a twin exit exhaust. We're a bit over exhausted these days, aren't we? It's either completely fake or there's just too many of them.
My 12-year-old nephew though gets extremely excited when he goes to a car show and he's like, it's got he still says it now, where he's like, he'll talk about a car and then just go, oh, it's got 4 exhausts.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's the thing that stands out the most. It's just,
I love that still matters to kids though, because it's like you could so be lost in our new world, but it still matters to kids. I like that.
I'm so glad. I keep encouraging it as well, of being like, have you seen this? This one's got 6 exhausts. What was it? It was the Countach.
Oh yes.
That had like
all stacked
the aftermarket one
other.
From Cannonball Run.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I have gone for first one is Peugeot 205 T16.
Cool. Yeah.
But I'm going for the rally car because the rally car had a central pea shooter and it looked really flipping cool.
Yeah.
The road cars just look like any old 205.
Long live the pea shooter.
Which is, central. I remember playing. The first time I came across it was on Sega Rally on the Sega Dreamcast, and I was driving the 205 T16, and I was like, it's got central exhaust. That's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah.
I think that's where it got ingrained in my brain.
In your formative years, you were just pea shooters.
Second one, Lamborghini Murcielago.
Not a pea shooter.
LP640. More of a grenade launcher.
Yeah.
But it's the crazy thing is the original Murcielago had twin exhausts, massive twin exhausts in the centre. But when they went to the LP640, they just went, let's just do a really big centre one. And just as a mention on that, if you go, it was an Aventador, I think it was the standard Aventador, had a massive flat exit, but it was actually 4 exhausts kind of with a single shroud. Yeah. Which was the hard thing, is it actually a single exit or is it just a shroud? This is the sad things that we do here. And the last one, to be really particular, is Caterhams.
Yeah, of course.
I think some actually have twin tips.
Yeah,
but it's a single side exit exhaust, and some have actual just a single outlet.
Yeah.
So Caterham. It may not be a central exit, but side exits are just as good. And as we've known from some viral YouTube videos, you can fry different types of meats on it too, which is great.
Really, really annoy Caterham in the process because it completely ruins
really tick them off. Note to anyone planning on doing that: put oil down.
Lots of oil,
cooking oil, not 5W whatever. And on that note, that ends another episode of The Gassing Station. Thank you ever so much for listening. And if you like what you listen to, please leave us a 5-star review, maybe some nice words. It just gives us a bit of encouragement and also helps get The Gassing Station out to more people. Sam, anything you'd like to add before we come back here and do it all again?
I'm really excited to talk about our next topic because I'm going to get really ergonomic mad. Can't wait.
It's going to get freaking nerdy, but that's why you tune into The Gassing Station, because we're massive nerds, and this is your safe space. So, on that note, I will see you next Tuesday.